So, welcome to Talk of the Bay. I'm Rachel Ann Goodman, and I'm here with Kyndal Edwards, who has walked how many miles across the country to raise awareness about addiction and mental health?
As of right this very minute, I am at 4,778 miles walked.
How do you keep track of that? Do you have like a counter on your body or something?
So if I were to say that mileage is a lot less than it should be. So the way I do it is when I put in my GPS where I'm going for the day, whatever the mile count shows, that's what I add. But anything under 10, you never know what it actually is because at 9.9, you see what the point is. So if it says 20 miles, I'm counting 20 miles for the day, whether it's 20.1 or 20.9. So there's probably been many days that I've done almost a whole nother mile and never counted it, but that's how I track it.
Most of us, can imagine hiking 5 or 10 miles. In my 20s, I hiked 20 miles in one day, and it was brutal to me, even in my in shape, what I thought was in my in shape self. How many miles do you average a day?
So it really varies a lot. And the way that I've done it has switched up since I've started. I've been at it for over 2 years. So for a long time on just going across in the Midwestern states and stuff like that, a lot of flat land, a lot of hot days, just trying to make it as further distance just to cover what I can. I would say I estimated probably like anywhere from 20 to 22 a day for quite a while. The most I've ever done in a day was 36, but there's also been days that I've just gone a couple miles and then been done for the day.
Most of us, can't say we've walked that many miles in our lives. So, regardless of even why you're doing this, it's such a huge accomplishment to have walked the entire country. And you have further plans to not just go across it, right? But to go circumnavigate it along the sides.
Yeah, so I did coast to coast from Jacksonville Beach, Florida, where I took off January 1st, 2022. I did 13 states diagonal to Long Beach, Washington. I did Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. Put my feet in the Pacific Ocean, Long Beach on April 12th, which also doubled as my 4 year drug free date. After that, I took a month off. I met my girlfriend in Oklahoma on the journey walking through. So after I finished, I went back and hung out with her for a month. And then I came back on the road and then I walked up to Cape Flattery, which is the most northwestern point of the United States. After I hit that point, I met some bikers that were biking all four corners. And that's when I decided to continue on to all four corners. So then I decided to head south. So now I'm heading down to San Diego. Then I will walk another coast to coast back to Florida, go down to the Keys, and then I'll walk the whole East Coast up to Maine.
So, I've been looking at your pictures of Santa Cruz County, and you're in Monterey County now. Tell us about this micro part of your journey. Any impressions as you walk through about the people or anything you encountered that you'll remember about being here on the Central Coast?
Absolutely. So there has been a lot of amazing people. The experiences are incredible. One thing that stuck out particularly is when I started the journey, I researched other people that had, walked across America and, learned who did what and just kind of saw how their journeys went. One of the people that walked across America in 2019 was Mike Poster, which, if you're not familiar, is a musician, has a couple popular songs that have been on the radio and stuff like that. If I'm not mistaken, his father died, his best friend died, and something else happened within a short amount of time. And he decided that he didn't just want to exist, he wanted to go live his life. So he walked across America, got bit by a rattlesnake in Colorado, like had to stop and then went right back to where he got bit and finished the journey and stuff like that. I love that type of stuff. I like people that push through hard challenges. Well, I'm walking my cart on the Santa Cruz Beach boardwalk, which I wasn't actually supposed to have it on there, and I wasn't sure, but I had walked it all the way to the end where they had the it closed for one section of the park, and then I walked it all the way back. I was just almost out of the park when a guy stops me, And he was like, "Hey, can I talk to you about that for a minute?" And he worked there, so I was like, "Oh man, like I'm not supposed to be here." Which just a couple minutes later, a couple other security guards who were super cool and super nice about like, "I'm so sorry to have to say, but you're not supposed to have it on here." And I was like, "Hey, you're good. Like I've already seen them. I'm out. I'm heading out now." But the one guy that did stop me at first was a buddy of Mike Posner's, who was his support vehicle when he walked across America. So he's sitting there telling me that, and I'm like, that is crazy, because right after I started January 1st, 2022. In February 22, I did a post and I tagged three people, Mike Posner and then two other people that inspired me. So Mike Posner had commented back, and I thought it was the coolest thing that I had like a celebrity that was commenting on a post. And he had walked across too. So just to meet the dude that, the guy that was his actual support vehicle, like seeing me on the boardwalk, like the chances are just, it was divine. So that was really cool. A lot of other people, so in bigger cities, it's easier for just to go day to day and just walk by. I get more attention in smaller towns just because it's something out of the ordinary. In bigger cities, there's people walking with carts and stuff, so you get less people that stop you and stuff like that. But there's been a lot more people that stop me and are excited. Yesterday, whenever I stopped in Moss Landing, there was a kid on a bike. I want to say he said he was 17. His name was Ethan, and he pulls up. I'm in the middle of a news interview, and he pulls up and he's listening, and he was like, "Hey man, can I buy you lunch?" And I'm thinking, oh man, he must follow the journey or whatever, just cruising his bike around. And afterwards, I heard him talking to somebody else, and they had asked if he had been following the journey. He was like, "No, I just came up. I liked his "You Matter" sign," and I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" A 17-year-old, so like just hitting the younger people, because that's really where it needs to be. That was a really big thing. And there's just been so many amazing people. It's just countless amazing people.
It must be a really interesting thing to get out of. Most of us, when we travel, we're in our cars and we're kind of in a bubble of hotels and we don't get exposed to just random people the way you are. And I want to get back to the why. It's a really important part of the story. Some people might just say, I want to do it because I could and find out if I can cross the country. But you're doing it to raise awareness. There is a huge mental health crisis in this country, as many of our listeners know, and it's linked but not identical to the addiction and fentanyl crisis. They're all kind of interwoven. And both of those things are what you're trying to call attention to. And I guess my first question is, how does carrying a sign or handing things out or talking to people shift the awareness about this?
You know what, that's I'm glad you asked that, because one of the things I do get asked a lot, because my main thing is walking across America. And in 2013 is when I was inspired by this, about this journey, before these causes were ever into play. So this is just me living my dream. So when it comes to the causes itself, um just that sign, just telling people that you matter, I feel is so huge, because you never know what anybody's going through at any given time.
Do you think a
Uh,
lot of people feel like they don't matter?
I do. I think, and it's, and I feel like it's just because a lot of other people in the world make other people feel like they don't matter. There's a lot of hatred and anger. There's a lot of cyberbullying and stuff, and it's like bullying back in the day, even as I was going through school, wasn't like it is now. As when the bell rang and you go home, you were away from certain problems. Now you don't escape that. These kids don't escape that. And I hope that parents can realize that these kids don't escape, and it's not a get over it, suck it up, because they don't get away from it kind of thing. Um,
I'm so glad you mentioned online bullying because, it's now being linked to the depression crisis in a big way. People said, oh, it's just a social media, who cares? But then they realize it's really hitting teens, as you mentioned, in a way that didn't exist before. And it follows them into their after school life and can ruin their life. One bad picture being circulated or a rumor
mm.
can sink your social life forever and cause suicidal, problems there. So I'm glad you brought that up.
I think I was in Fort Bragg, and there was an officer telling me that they had just had to talk to a 5-year-old who was dealing with suicidal thoughts. And I'm thinking, a 5-year-old, how? And it's so scary. So for me, I've even taken a class since I've been on here to become a recovery coach. But like with that being said, I don't have clientele. I don't have, I can't sit here and diagnose anything to anybody. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not, I don't have a degree in certain things. The recovery coach that class that I took was through a group called Addict to Athletes. It's a nonprofit organization based out of Utah. Taking that course, I learned more about addiction. I learned more about mental health things. I learned what um, childhood adverse experiences, ACEs. And I hope I pronounced that right. If I didn't, please forgive me. But just all the things that we go through and how they play an effect in our life and things like that. So with that being said, even being a recovery coach, my main thing is talking about the same things on a daily basis. It's very, very repetitive. It's letting people know, hey, mental health matters. Make sure you're showing yourself self-love and self-care. We gotta start lifting each other up with love and not tearing each other down with hate. I do a daily prayer on my social media almost every day. I'd say like 95% of the day. Some days, I take a break. I always do my prayer to myself. But and it's a super repetitive prayer, but it hits on everything so important to life, I feel like. And there's so much meaning. So just talking about things on the daily basis, even if it's just saying you matter, you matter, you matter to the same people every single day, because you know what, there might be one of those days that they feel like they don't matter and they needed to hear it. Um,
And
I,
you have your own, you're like a guinea pig for your own theory there because you had a pretty rough time for a number of years and you were actually involved in yourself in addiction to drugs and maybe inspired your criminal activity. I don't know how much they were related, but you did time in prison, you had some violent incidents, and now you've been drug free for several years now. Talk about your own transformation from someone who looked like they were going down the road either toward death or imprisonment for a long time based on what you were up to. Uh, can you reflect a little bit about the connection first of the drugs to the crimes? And then I want to talk about like when you had your aha moment. But let's go back a little and just say, were you doing those crimes you think because of your addiction, because you needed money for drugs?
no, absolutely not. So this is where I stand on that. When I talk about addiction, for me, well, just in reality, addiction is not just drugs. There's lying and stealing and pornography, just a ton of other things that addiction could be. Um, I was addicted to lying and stealing and other things before I ever knew what drugs were. I had a problem. I turn out and realize I still have an addiction to this day that boils down to everything that I've done, and that's adrenaline rush. I'm an adrenaline junkie. But now I'm a much safer adrenaline junkie in a sense, even though I'm walking with cars coming at me. But that's instead of whether I was high or whether I was getting money to get drugs or food or just whatever I wanted, it was about just doing it to see if I could do it. I was breaking into houses left. I had an addiction to breaking into houses. It didn't, I played with my life so many times because you never know what's on the other side of that door.
And
I
you got an adrenaline rush from doing that.
When I did drugs, I didn't just, I did them to the point where people around me would beg me to stop because they thought I was doing too much. I was just testing my tolerance. Now, only one time did I take a bunch of drugs to try to end my life, and thank the Lord I woke up sober the next morning. But I used to consume massive amounts of drugs just to see if I could handle it. But it was weird. Like when it came to drugs, I also knew where to draw the line. Meth. I liked meth. I loved meth, but I only smoked it twice. This after the second time I smoked it, the person that I smoked it with called me and asked me to hang out, and I was like, "Yo, I can't smoke that ever again." And he said, "Why?" I was like, "Because you're a friend and you haven't done anything wrong to me. You're a decent person." I was like, "But if I smoke that again, I will rob you in a month and a half and take everything from you because I know how I am." And he respected that, you know. I've tried almost every drug. I didn't like pain pills. I didn't like heroin. I've never put a needle in my arm. My biggest drug addiction was K2, the synthetic weed that they used to sell out of gas stations, and cough medicine over the counter. I used to smoke about an ounce of K2 a day and 4 boxes of triple C's, Chloroseed, and cold and cough a day. I was taking 64 pills a day. My organs barely functioned when I was on that. Like I used to have to sit down on the toilet for 20 minutes just to pee. It was bad. It was really bad.
And
And,
so there you were, like in prison. We can fast forward to the moment you finally get like incarcerated in a serious way in a very bad place, no doubt. Um, when did the click happen that you felt like, wait, this isn't working at all for me? Like, was it an instant click or a gradual realization that this was going to lead you down to, nowhere?
I'm 31 years old and I have 13 felonies on my record and a bunch of misdemeanors. I've been in county jail 11 times, in prison twice, once for 18 months and once for 5 years. My 5 year prison sentence, 2.5 years into that sentence, something just clicked in my head and said I didn't want to do it anymore. Now, when it comes to prisons, I wouldn't sit here and tell you that they are correctional institutions. They're more like just housing for criminals. With that being said, it's easier to get drugs in prison most of the times than it is on the streets because it's not who do you got to call, how long you got to wait. It's what bunk do you got to go to in the dorm you're in. Now, I wasn't doing a lot of drugs in prison. I hardly ever did drugs in prison. But, I did stuff a handful of times, and it was one day over somebody trying to give me something. We got in an argument about something completely different. I gave it back, and it was like a week later. I was like, I don't even think I want to do drugs anymore. And that was it. I didn't think about it anymore. And thank God for myself that I got locked up as fentanyl was being put into street stuff because my dad, who's disabled, which he got off of them a few years ago, wore fentanyl patches for like 15, 20 years, a very long time. So it wasn't like it is now. You know what I'm saying? Now, like, and never to ever glorify what I was doing, but it was even more social back then, hanging out with your buddies. Nobody had to worry about carrying Narcan. Every once in a while, somebody might die from doing too much heroin, but I didn't hang out with people that were putting needles in their arms. I just didn't like to look at it. Like, it would make me gag. At the same time, I was going to donate plasma for cigarettes. So it was weird because I was so scared of the needle in my arm, but I would go donate plasma for cigarettes. My life was like a big contradictory, but that 2.5 years in, it clicked in my head and I said, I didn't want to do it anymore. Part of my depression when I had tried to take my life when I was younger, a few different things had added up, but I was a really big kid. When I was 12 years old, I believe I weighed like 198 pounds, wore size 36 men's pants. And I had a lot of depression. I had tried to take my life my freshman year of high school just due to numerous things. So years of doing drugs and running the streets, like I had lost weight, all of that stuff. I didn't think about that. I thought I was healthy, even though I wasn't really healthy. But I gained a lot of weight those 2 years in prison. So my nickname had became Bad Bodied Kyndal. People would call me BBK, and I did not like it. But they would invite me to come work out with them. And these were people that were like doing the most elite workouts on the compound in prison I was at. So one day I decided to go out there with them and I wasn't even close to keeping up with them. I think they were doing like 6-7 minute miles, 5 minute miles and stuff. And I was doing like a 12-minute mile the first day, but I never gave up. Within a few months, I did a 5 minute and 57-second mile. Well, I more than doubled my time off. I became a beast in my own mind and it affected my mental health. But in the process, I made sure to not let myself get too cocky. Don't get me wrong, with my homeboys in the working out, flexing afterward, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Beast. But I would go sit down and read my Bible and thank God for another day. I would start meditating and think about the things that I wanted to put into existence in life. And at that point, I had forgot all about the walk across America for years. It was my last year in work release where I was talking to a girl. It didn't work out. And I remember one day because I was really hoping that it would have worked out, but it didn't. And it's crazy because that girl and the father of her baby are both doing time in prison for murder right now. So yeah, life. God has a way of working. God has a way of working. It's a super sad situation. But I remember it was around like within a couple of days of it, like because I was just so stressed out. I remember seeing this canvas painting in this telemarketing office that I worked at, and it was the seven continents, and I saw the United States. And I remember taking a pencil over there, like looking from Florida to California. I was like, I was gonna walk that one day. I was like, oh my gosh, I could still walk across America. Because at this point, I'm finally a free man. I've changed my life. I've officially changed my life because I think when I took off on the journey, I was 30 months drug free. So I had been over 2 years drug free in prison, you know. So I was like, this would be perfect. Like, and I don't have probation. I'm a free man. After like the majority of my adult life, like 10 years out of 120 months between probation, inpatient rehab, and prison and jail, I was only a free man for like 10 months in over 10 years. So this was a big deal to me. So I thought, what could I walk for? And every day somebody was posting another loss of life to a drug overdose, suicide to a family member or a friend or a family of family friend member, whatever. Um, and it was heartbreaking. And I'm like, yo, like these are things that I've dealt with, like, and I've overcame. Like we can overcome. And I'm posting positive stuff on Facebook every day before I ever even remembered the journey. I remember one day somebody had sent a message to me on Facebook saying, dude, I am 90 days drug free just watching you post on Facebook. And I'm in work release. I'm still locked up. You know what I'm saying? I'm just posting positive stuff. So whenever I posted it, everybody was like, that's a good idea. And then I just decided, I was like, hey guys, I want to do something to remember people who have lost their lives. And that's when I put these shirts together. Um, each
And describe what you have on so for our radio audience.
Absolutely. So I have a shirt right here on I'm wearing it right now. At the very top on the front in big bold letters, it says a walking testimony. On the back at the top in big bold letters, it says the journey of a lifetime. There's 3 columns of 30 names apiece, 90 on the front, 90 on the back, 180 names total of beautiful souls that are no longer with us who have lost their lives to drug overdose and or suicide, mental health and or recovery issues. Even though they are not with us, they are still being remembered and getting the journey of a lifetime, where the 180 specifically stands for taking a 180-degree turn in the opposite direction from the things taking the people that we love and care about. And that is a 180-degree turn. I'm not just talking about it, it's something that I am about because it's a 180-degree turn that I've taken in my own life. And there's so many people that are feeling so hopeless. And with the fentanyl crisis out there alone, I'm working on the 11th edition right now. And that's over 1,000 something names that people have sent me, one person alone, people who have lost their life to these causes. And that just really, that it puts a huge perspective on it. It really is so absolutely heartbreaking. And I just want to shed some light. I just want to be a positive light in the process.
And if you just joined me here, I'm Rachel Ann Goodman on Talk of the Bay, and we're talking to Kyndal Edwards, who's walked across America, has got 4,000 miles under his belt, and is walking through our community as we speak through Santa Cruz and Monterey counties on his way south. So I guess I want to get back to the journey ahead. You're heading south from Santa Cruz. You're in Monterey County as we speak. Where are you in Marina right now?
Yes, so right now I'm in Marina. Yesterday when I was walking, I got a shin splint. I stopped in Moss Landing. I came up here and went ahead and got lodging over here. I still owe 10 miles that I will go back when I'm healed up to Moss Landing, cover the 10 miles. Then I will walk to Monterey. Unfortunately, there's 3 road slides, big slides. So I'm going to be cutting over to Salinas, taking the 101 down to Paso Robles, and then I'll cut back over to the one.
What's the most dangerous thing you face walking on highways and such?
I would say Highway 1, those slides, because that's totally unfamiliar terrain with me. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, born and raised, so those slides are pretty crazy. On Highway 1, so this has been one of the most challenging roads that I have walked in the longest period of time. Um, some of those cliff faces, like from Leggett, California, down to where you actually see the coast again, is like 1,900 feet in elevation gains of 22 miles and nothing but curves. And there were semis coming at me all day, like transporting rocks from a slide. That was a crazy one. Um, I would say the most dangerous thing I really face is the cars coming at me on a daily basis. I'm normally live stream and I'm normally answering comments if I can see them in between cars, but I am so alert. It is not even funny. It's crazy how aware I am of everything that's going on around me pretty much at all times on the road. I can see every driver. And for people that don't know, a lot of people say, why do you walk on the wrong side of the road stuff? The legal way to walk, if you are not on a sidewalk, is against traffic, and you're supposed to bike with traffic. I can see everything coming at me. I am prepared to jump at any given time. If something were to happen inconvenient, it's just my time to go. I've lived the most life. I've lived more life in the last 2 years, and it's not like to brag or anything like that. It's to encourage more people to go out there and live their lives. You don't got to go walk across America, but go out there and experience what life has to offer, nature and all that stuff. But I've done more in the last 2 years than most people in the world will do in a lifetime, and that's just walking across the country. Um, so yeah, if knock on wood, my little saying is fingers crossed, knock on wood, prayers up, God is good.
Nice.
Um,
Well, let's hope you're safe on your journey. You're going to go down 101. What's the furthest south you intend to go? You're going all the way to the border of
yeah,
Mexico?
yeah, border to San Diego. And then I will probably take a little break and then I'll walk the southern states back to Florida, down to the Keys and up to Maine.
It's going to be hot on the
I
southern
know.
route. Yeah.
That's probably why I'm taking a little break in
Yeah. Yeah.
between.
Well, anything you'd like to leave us with as you wander through our backyard with your cart? And do you camp or mostly stay? I see you're in a hotel room right now. Do you vary that or do
So,
you have a
so the
tent?
first half of the journey, I camped most of the time. Last summer in Washington, I did a ton of camping. Um, During the winter with the rain and everything, I didn't really camp. A lot of people have blessed me. I am a digital creator, so now I'm getting paid through Facebook to be on this journey, basically. So I can kind of put myself in hotels more if I want to. Once I get to places where campgrounds aren't booked up as much because of the time right now, I haven't really thought about reserving ahead, and that's something I actually need to start doing. But I will be camping again. On the southern states back across, there'll probably be quite a few camp nights because there's going to be some distances in between towns and stuff.
Well, Kyndal Edwards, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Would you like to leave us with any final thoughts?
Absolutely. To anybody dealing with any depression today or just thoughts of maybe you don't want to be here anymore, I just want to let you know I'm thankful that you are here today. I don't have to know you in person to tell you that I love you and I care about you and just thank you for being here today. I hope that you can turn that existence into living your best life. Just know that you have value and purpose. Anybody struggling with addiction, a support is absolutely amazing, but you have to want it for yourself. It's not just the idea of wanting it and everything that comes with it. You have to actually want to not want the substance anymore. But y'all matter and we do recover. If you want to follow the journey, a walking testimony on Facebook, put underscores between the two words if you want to follow on Instagram and YouTube. But everybody have a blessed day and just know y'all matter so much. And thank you.
Thanks for being on K Squid. We really appreciate you taking the time in your journey.